can someone begin to live more fully in the present moment? Also, exactly like you spoke about Eckhart Tolle's book. So, is that a part of, an inspiration that you derived from him, or has this been your philosophy all along?
I've passed through so many tough exams with flying colors, but I don't think I was really ever very present. Most people I knew, very successful, very rich, very powerful,
Absolutely.
you know, but somehow this being present was never really either taught to us or we never thought it so important.
Can you explain from your own experiences where acceptance and surrender has made a significant difference to your own life?
अब जो हो गया, we can't do anything about it, so might as well accept it. Surrender is not something which is a passive thing. It's actually an active process. The biggest hurdle is the resistance. Why is this happening to me? Or, I have done everything well. Why should it happen to me? I don't deserve it. Life is unfair. That actually becomes the problem which creates more of the suffering. Like Eckhart Tolle says, acceptance of the unacceptable is the highest form of grace.
Are there any specific techniques you recommend for managing stress and maintaining resilience?
We can integrate our doingness, the busyness of our life, with that beingness. Even in the midst of hectic activities, we can ground ourselves and center ourselves again.
Hi, in today's episode, we have with us Dr. Saroj Dubey. He's an author, a motivational TEDx speaker, as well as a medical doctor, a practicing senior consultant gastroenterologist in Delhi NCR. Apart from his medical practice, he's deeply passionate and curious about exploring life and helping others to lead a richer and more meaningful life. His latest book, RX for Resilience, Perspective on Embracing the Present and Discovering Joy and Strength, delves into his personal experience, which he has discussed in the book, with great honesty and detail, and helps others who are facing an extremely life challenging situation to confront it fully so that it can become a catalyst into something life transforming and uplifting. So, let me begin by asking you what inspired you to write RX for Resilience? Can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey that led to the creation of this book?
Yeah, sure, Mohua, and good afternoon to everyone. And it's a real privilege being with you. So, Mohua, the thing is, this book was born out of a journey of heartbreak, self exploration, and I would say personal growth. So, as you know, as you have rightly said, I'm a doctor. That's my profession, and as a consultant, as a senior gastroenterologist, I've been working for the last 20 years, and things were going along well. There was some superficial from time to time because I'm a voracious reader. So there was some exploration into mindfulness, meditation, books. I That journey started with Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, but it was more for kind of living a less stressful life and trying to balance both the work as well as to be a bit more relaxed. But then there a certain incident happened which came as a roadblock where a patient of mine who had done a endoscopic procedure, she developed complications. Although the procedure went seemingly apparently well, but she developed a perforation for which she had to be operated, and the operation also went apparently fine, but the patient deteriorated and subsequently she passed away. Now, as doctors, we have to face such things. As you can understand, these are things which are not, kind of new to us. But probably the ground was fertile somewhere. Something about the whole episode, and probably it was my background of mindfulness and meditation, which I had already started. Something really, broke my heart and shattered me. And there was this deep desire to know what life is all about, what is permanent, what is transient, what is happiness. All these questions were there, and that actually led me to a journey of meeting teachers, reading, exploring, meditation, and finally at some point when there was a certain clarity, then I felt that I would like to share it with others, and that's how this book came about. So
Wonderful.
RX for resilience, RX, as you know, is the short form for prescription, which we
Mm.
write in
Yes.
our this thing in the
Yeah.
doctor's.
Yeah.
So this the prescription for resilience, which I talk about, is something which is very close to my heart because I feel that everyone, for me it may have been a different situation, for others it may be anything, separation, loss, death, or anything, but we all face heartbreaks. And this is my way of trying to kind of convey what are the ways I can do to help others.
Wonderful. So, living in the present is a major theme of your book. Okay, how can someone begin to live, more fully in the present moment? Also, exactly like you spoke about, Eckhart Tolle's book. So, is that a part of, an inspiration that you derived from him, or has this been your philosophy all along?
Mhm. No, in fact, I would say when I read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, that by that time I had already become a gastroenterologist, and then because during the time when I was doing my studies and all, there was not much time for reading other books. When I read it, the first thing that struck me is that I have led a fairly successful life, and I've achieved I've passed through so many tough exams with flying colors, but I don't think I was really ever very present. And I also realized with the kind of a shock that this is true for most people. Most people I knew, very successful, very rich, very powerful,
Absolutely.
you know. But somehow this being present was never really either
Mhm.
taught to us, or we never thought it so important. And that was when it really kind of struck me. And the thing is, and I started practicing where being more present by mindfulness methods which I have described in the book, and I'll talk about it. But the most important thing, Moa, is to be present fully with life, you know to be totally present with whatever life is offering us. You'll agree that most of the time we kind of pick and choose through life. Okay, this is something which I'd like to have, this is something which I'd rather not have or discard it, but life will never really ask us. And when we become more present and open to whatever life is offering, actually then remarkable things start happening. And also in the process which I've described in the book, so when all these emotions came to me, all these emotions of despair, humiliation, hurt, sadness, I realized that I had to be totally present with whatever was happening. Only if I was totally present with my emotions, with my thoughts, only then could any shift take place. And I've described it in the book also, and that is what actually happened. And of course, there are many practices which I've described, like mindfulness practice, where we can, because this is not something that happens out of the blue. Since I was into some amount of practice, so when these dark moments came, that it made it a little more easier.
Beautiful. In RX for Resilience, you delve into the concept of acceptance and surrender, both which are the toughest, okay? Can you explain how these concepts play a role in navigating life's challenges and share some practical examples also from your own experiences where acceptance and surrender has made a significant difference to your own life?
Yes, absolutely. So, you picked a very important point which I have discussed, which is a running theme throughout the book, acceptance and surrender. And frankly, before this episode, when people would talk about acceptance or surrender, then one would feel, I would honestly feel, okay, that is something like as if you are resigned to, it's a kind of a passive thing. Okay, ab jo ho gaya, we can't do anything about it, so might as well accept it. But what I, but and but I'll also add that when I read Eckhart Tolle's words about acceptance and surrender, at that time only something actually struck a chord with me. And he would say that surrender is not something which is a passive thing. It's actually an active process. And this is what I learned in my journey. When these things happen, so acceptance is basically not resisting this. We often, the biggest problem, like if any situation happens to us, the situation of course causes its own kind of whatever emotions and thoughts and reactions, but the biggest hurdle is the resistance. Why is this happening to me? or I have done everything well, why should it happen to me, I don't deserve it, life is unfair, and so many things. And that actually becomes the problem which creates more of the suffering. So acceptance is not resisting this moment, which does not mean in any way that you can't do anything. Like in this case, when the patient developed the complications, so whatever needed to be done as a doctor, as an gastroenterologist, and to call the other experts, surgeon, everything I was doing at the same time. But also I had to accept my inner feelings of despair and sadness and being upset, because otherwise that would just pile on the suffering. And surrender is a kind of a deeper acceptance, where sometimes you may not even be able to accept. Like Eckhart Tolle says, acceptance of the unacceptable is the highest form of grace. Like I'll say, for someone maybe who has lost a relative, a close relative, and if you say that you kind of accept it, then that may not really strike with them. They'll say, I can't accept it, because this is something which is something which is has totally broken me apart. But even to accept that you cannot accept it is actually a form of surrender. And when we surrender to this moment, and when we surrender to the feelings which are within us without, resisting it, that actually causes a kind of a alchemy to take place, a major shift to take place. And this is what, like you asked for the personal experience. Now, in this case, Mohua, when I was undergoing all these things, all these feelings, so either in the morning or in the evening, I would sit. That is also quite a difficult thing to do, to be totally present and embrace your feelings. So I would sit with all these feelings of disappointment, rejection, hurt. And what happened was something remarkable happened, where these feelings, the more you sat in awareness with it, they start kind of dissolving. They start fading away. They won't disappear, but they'll start fading away. And at one point of time, I described in the book, where in the midst of all these feelings, there was a kind of a stillness and a peace. And that actually made a profound impact on me. And I realized that this stillness, this beingness, is all the time surrounding us. And this is what all the books talk about. But I had kind of experienced it. And once I had experienced it, I realized that life may throw challenges and things may happen, but we are never actually a distance away from that stillness and peace if we totally embrace it.
Which is very difficult. Dr.
Yes,
Saroj. It's a very
absolutely.
difficult practice, one has to admit. So, in one of your chapters in your book, you focus on saying yes to life. How can
Mm.
embracing this mindset, transform the way we approach our daily struggles and setbacks? Could you provide a very specific instance where saying yes to life, to unexpected growth or positive change it has brought about when
It
you
has.
didn't want to say yes?
Yes, absolutely. Now, so saying yes again is a kind of a, actually initially when I wrote the book, my the topic which I had thought of was say yes to this moment, because it had become a mantra, again borrowed from Eckhart Tolle's book. When I, his the quote in his book is, say yes to this moment and say yes to life, and it will miraculously transform your life. And when all these things were happening, and I was able, I would say it's by grace that I was able to say yes to all the emotions, the feelings, the hurt, the fear, then I could see a shift taking place. And that became my kind of mantra, which is all, which has been throughout. So I would say, I would give a recent example also. Now, you know how children are. Like my kids, they are in that growing up phase where my daughter and my son, they have kind of, my son is in the teenage phase and daughter has reached her 20s. So especially last year, there was some immense challenges, related to, them. And initially, of course, there was this resistance that no, why is it happening? I have like we there has been no fault of us as parents, and how could all these things be happening? Then I realized that here again I'm resisting, and when I said, okay, let me just accept and say yes to what is happening right now, not what could happen even a week from now or a month from now, and probably in my saying yes, in my being unconditionally accepting the things as they were, I could see a difference and a change in their behavior also. And this has often happened. I've seen again in the book, in the epilogue I've described, where my mother was very critical, and I was, outside ICU. I had to come up and down from Delhi all the time, and there was this fear of losing her, fear of this thing. Now, okay, obviously parents are going to leave you at some time, but when I was able to say yes to what was happening, I could be more present with her, even in her last moments, rather than having been engulfed with thoughts that, oh, my mother is going to leave me. So I think that way, saying yes to whatever is happening can be really very beneficial.
Beautiful. You have a chapter on fear where you discuss about confronting and embracing vulnerability. How did your understanding of fear evolve through your personal journey, and what strategies can readers use to face their own fears with courage and clarity?
So actually, in the chapter on fear, I started with saying that this book would be incomplete without a chapter on fear, because I would say the whole uh, throughout this episode, the the strongest emotion, the most challenging emotion was that of fear. Right from the time it happened, that fear of how do I convey with the relatives, the fear of what would happen to my patient, the fear of my reputation as a doctor, as a gastroenterologist, the fear of what my colleagues would think of me, the fear of what other people would think. So, at every moment, there was this feeling of fear, and I intuitively realized that I had to enter the core of fear in order to kind of transcend it. So, embracing that fear was a big part of my journey. And again, by its grace only that I could embrace that fear. And more the I would say the amazing part is that when we are able to embrace fear totally, openly, wholeheartedly, without resistance, we get connected with that which is fearless in us, and that can make such a profound difference in your life. It's a kind of experiencing uh, death in many ways, because actually the biggest fear in our life, which I've described in the book, is the fear of death. So touching that, touching or tasting that fearlessness was a major part of my transformation and journey. And what I'd like to share with you and others is that it is not just about me. Each one of us, we have that aspect of being, of fearlessness, of stillness, which is within us at each and every moment, and we just need to be totally open to what is happening, and then we are able to access that fearlessness, and that kind of really transforms us.
So, in your book, you also address about our thoughts that can seduce us into believing that they are fixed and permanent. So, how can people differentiate between transient thoughts and the true unchanging nature? What practices or exercises can help in cultivating this sort of an awareness?
Mhm. Yeah, thoughts actually are, another very important part of my journey, because being a good student, I would say, and, giving exams, by the time I finished my graduation, I had the feeling that the thoughts are the most important thing, in this universe. And thoughts are very powerful. And I was very much enamored by The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, and visualization, affirmation. When I read Eckhart Tolle's book again, when he talks about there is something deeper than thoughts, and most importantly, you are not your thoughts, that again, kind of struck and jolted me. And I remember that feeling was, how can he say that? Whatever I am is because of my thoughts, my mind. That is, whatever I have achieved is because of that. But again, through the practices, and it deepened in during this episode, one realizes that actually there is a distance between us and our thoughts. Now, thoughts, they come and go, they hang around. Sometimes, most of the time, we create a story around the thoughts. For example, if someone says something kind of rude to me, now that is one thought. How did that person say? Then you start, creating story. Oh, this always happens to me, and the other person also said, and this happened to me 5 years ago also. You build up and you get seduced by so many other thoughts. But there is an awareness of thoughts which is deeper than our thoughts. And once one realizes that there is something which is deeper than our thoughts and emotions, then you know that you can be a kind of you can call it a witness or a watcher, where thoughts come and go, and what remains is that awareness of all of it happening. So these, of course, I won't say it's very easy, but spending some time in silence, just being aware of your thoughts, how it comes and goes, and also realizing that all thoughts, however they may seem to be, actually they are temporary. The best analogy is the clouds and the sky. However dark or stormy clouds are there is that clearness and blueness of the sky which never actually leaves it. And even say it may be for a few hours or a day or days also, but that clarity of the sky is always there. So that is what there is, even deeper than all the thoughts.
Wonderful, beautiful example you've given. Absolutely. So, in what ways does RX for Resilience addresses the integration of mindfulness into high pressure careers? I always worry about my son who has a very high pressure
Yes.
career. He's not in the country. So, how can professionals,
Okay.
in demanding fields benefit from the book's insights? And are there any specific techniques you recommend for managing stress and maintaining resilience?
Absolutely, Moa. And in fact, this is, I would say, the thing I'm, most fond of, talking about. Because being in a high pressure situation myself as a very active doctor, sometimes, I remember when the book was being written, and some people said, "Ki, how do you get the time? Acha, have you stopped working or whatever?" So I would say, no, we can integrate both. And, I gave a TEDx talk also, which I invite you to see, and the readers also, that about the art of doing and being, which I've taken from the book, and just suggested some strategies where we can integrate our doingness, the busyness of our life, with that beingness. And among the strategies which I have described is, one is of course being present. The more present we are, we are able to kind of, even in the midst of hectic activities, we can ground ourselves and center ourselves again. So that is one of the most important things. Then also taking some time for not doing anything, which is called as Nixon, the art of doing nothing. Because what happens is, we are so used to doing everything, that we even fill up our holidays with some
Activities.
activities. So we just need to step back, pause, not do anything, then to take small pauses throughout the day. Very often, some of my friends or colleagues say, okay, Saroj, I don't have time for meditation or mindfulness. I'm a busy person, how can I this? So I say, just take out a couple of minutes in between your schedule. And in my talk also, I've described how in between my OPD or my endoscopy, you just need maybe a couple of minutes where you just pause, maybe just breathe once in awareness, center yourself, and resume what you're doing. So there's one very simple practice called stop, which I can just invite everyone to do. Whatever you're doing, stop and pause for 1 second. That is S. Take one breath in awareness. Simply, just one breath, but being aware of breathing in and out. O is observe. Observe whatever is happening, going on without resistance. Maybe there's restlessness, anxiety. Simply observe. And P is proceed. Then you proceed with whatever you're doing. So what happens is these small pauses, they break the cycle of mindlessness and again become make you present again. Then few other simple techniques are about how we can just notice more awe moments around us. Just a few still moments, maybe the pattern of clouds in the sky or the chirping of birds wherever you are, or even the furniture, just noticing the awe moments. And another important method is about flow, creating more flow in your life, which can be anything. It can be maybe reading, drama, dance, or whatever. Just try to make out maybe 5 minutes in a day or maybe 1 hour in a week. So these are the methods where we can become more present and we can integrate that doing and being in our hectic lives to create more harmony and joy.
So throughout RX Resilience, there's a lot of reference to various spiritual thought leaders and their teachings. So how did these influences shape your perspectives and practices, and what teachings resonated the most profoundly with you in your writing process?
That's a great question. And in fact, in the book, I've given a bibliography of, so many teachers and authors. And I've read all those books and met a lot of teachers. And a lot of people have found it helpful because, there are so many kind of teachers, and it depends on what resonates with you. So of course the teachers like Sadhguru and Sri Ravi Shankar and all, I read a lot and I follow a lot also. But what actually really resonated most with me was the teachings of non-duality, which has its roots in Advaita of Hindu scriptures. And it is about basic oneness, and also about being trying to find out the core of who I am. Who am I? So this is one chapter which I've described, where like we are always very perturbed. Okay, this is happening to me. Why is this happening to me? What is this? And I remember going to one of the teachers, and the first thing the teacher asked, okay, I understand your all these this turbulence which is going, but try to find out who is that person who is having all these problems. Then when you go deeper into that, then you realize that there is something which is deeper than all that. The teachings of Eckhart Tolle, actually, as I said, it resonated maximum because he has both his limbs, in the sense he can, if you are interested, he can take you very deep into your inner being. And at the same time, like for example, if I'm in totally shattered, and if I'm in a lot of problems, my I would fall back on him, because he would say, once you would want to know what to do now, he would say, just do what is, just embrace what is happening right now. Our minds will get carried away. Okay, this I have to do this, what will happen if something happens? But his teaching will bring you to what is happening right now. What can I do right now? How can I accept this present? So these are the teachers. Then Rupert Spira, a lot of his talks on happiness actually resonated a lot on me.
Please
And
tell us a little bit
yes,
about that.
about that, yeah.
Saroj? Yeah.
And yes, in the chapter on happiness, I've described a lot of models of happiness. But what actually, like Rupert Spira, he talks in his book, he talks about, you are the happiness that you speak. So what he invites us is to again go to that depth of that which is beyond your thoughts and your emotions, and you realize that what our true nature is actually, in a sense, which you can call anything, our beingness or whatever, the soul, that nature, our real nature, is actually happiness. So whatever we get externally, we think that okay, the external things are bringing us happiness. Those external things may bring, but actually that causes, once I get something, for example, if I want to get a Mercedes, and if I, then there is an agitation in the mind. When I acquire it, that mind agitation subsides, and what is reflected is our inner nature. So he always invites us to go directly to what our inner nature is, because that is the source of all happiness, and that is what all our scriptures say. Now, some of the techniques which I found most useful in my life, I've described. I'll just briefly tell. One is spaciousness. You know, people, when they ask me, how does mindfulness or meditation help? I said that the most important thing I realize is that there is more space within. I can give the example of, if I'm living in a 2 or 3 bhk house and suddenly I shift to a 5 bhk house. So things, the objects in the house may be the same, but there is more space to, accommodate everything. So when we become a little more present and mindful, there is more space to accommodate all our thoughts, all our emotions, and create more stillness. Then the second is, as I said, I've been saying, being in the present, being embracing this moment, being in alignment with the flow of life. Few practices which have helped me the most is, one is savoring, savoring the small joys of life. What happens is, we have this negativity bias in our minds. Like, if 20 things happen in a day, out of which 19 are positive and one is negative, we will always latch on to that negative thing.
Truly.
So and uh, so so we just need to shift things a little bit and just try to savor the good things which are happening in a day. Like, maybe someone gives us a good compliment, or I've had a nice tasty snack. So just when we take a few extra seconds to savor and absorb it, I find that that's a very useful practice, and that has helped a lot. Then the cultivation of positive emotions, which I've talked about, like things which I have also talked about: awe and flow, gratitude. We are often, when things go wrong, we are quick to point out and, lament about what is going wrong. But when we really, get down to it, we realize there's so many things to be grateful for. And especially in those moments of despair, I realized, okay, everything is going wrong, but can I still be grateful for my family? Can I be still be grateful for my health? Can I be still be grateful that I have some work to do, and still be grateful to be alive? Actually, where once we realize that gratitude for life is such an important thing, we take it for granted till we become sick or someone becomes sick. So I think these are simple methods, but we often forget it, and that actually causes. So even positive emotions can become a habit. We can develop these into a habit. And the last is cultivation of good habits. Like, for me, what has helped is little bit of taking time for silence, meditation, mindfulness. And what I again advise my friends, or even people who ask me, is make it small. Don't think that, okay, I have to meditate for half an hour daily, and after 5 days you find that I have no time. Why not just 5 minutes a day? Take out those 5 minutes. If you like it, you'll be able to extend it. If not, even if you do it for 5 minutes a day, that is going to help.
Wonderful. So, lastly, what message would you like your readers to take away from RX for Resilience?
Okay. I think the most important message I think I would like people to take away is to say yes wholeheartedly to what is happening, even if it is extremely challenging and difficult to do so, because resistance is only going to create more problems. So, openly engage with each moment of life the way it comes, not exactly the way we want it. And of course, if things are happening the way you want it, wonderful, that's great. But even if it's not happening, I can kind of, with my experience, I can tell people quite confidently that if we accept whatever is happening, even if it's not the way we want it, things start flowing, more harmoniously. So we just need to be accepting and to embrace this moment, embracing all our thoughts and emotions. We don't have to discard the negative emotions or negative thoughts, saying that, no, I don't want it. In my journey, I realized that once I was able to embrace all my so-called dark emotions, I could see a lot of light. And so that is what I would, suggest to the people who are watching it. Just, be open to life as it comes, without resistance, embracing things, and you'll see that, life becomes more of a flow rather than a a problem.
Wonderful. And what is the next project or endeavor on the horizon, Dr. Saroj Dubey?
Okay, yeah. So there are a lot of thoughts, about another book, because from whatever I've written, I remember in the first book there was still some hesitation that there was a little bit of lack of confidence whether I could kind of really express who am I. Like there would be the thought, who am I to tell people what to do. Then I realized that even if 1% of the people who are reading it find something which resonates with them, it's okay. So now it will be a little more about my own experiences, about, I especially would like more to do with being and doing, and how we can create those pauses in our busy lives. Then I love talking also. I was recently invited to my alma mater, Loyola School in Jamshedpur, to give a talk to the high school students, about stress, anxiety, and leading a more mindful life. So I love giving talks also. So, and there are invitations for that. So basically it's all about this. And of course my profession is still there, and I have also found, more like, when we become more mindful, we become more empathetic, more compassionate. And because we know that everyone is having their own journey, their own difficulty, we are all connected. So that has helped me more to evolve as a doctor and as a human being.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saroj Dubey, for being here in today's episode. It's been an absolute honor to have you.
No, no, it's been a
And
privilege and honor
yeah,
to,
absolute
have you
pleasure.
as my host. I really admire, your talks and all the work, your books, everything. You are a source of, you may or may not know, but you are a source of inspiration to millions. And please keep up your inspiring work. Thank you for having me here also.
Thank you. Thank you so much.